Welcome back to the Hoops Lounge. We're the show where Bruno Caboclo is a household name. My name is Marc Griffin, a.k.a. Montreal Mark, and I'm joined by my partners in crime, Phil Boileau, Sporting Phil, and Mota Elb, the international man of mystery. So this week in the NBA draft, there was a shocking moment where the Raptors with the 20th pick selected a man no one on the planet has ever heard of, Bruno Caboclo. But my man Mota Elb actually has heard of this guy, so he was the first person I thought of. Mota, I know you grew up in Brazil. You actually played in the same league as Bruno. What were your thoughts on this mystery pick?
Man,
and you're great sunglasses, by the way.
Yeah, I'm wearing sunglasses because I have soccer fever right now. It's the World Cup, and it's when you're a sports fan, you're a fan of everything. But when you're also from Brazil, you have to be religiously following football, which is soccer for people who are like. Anyways. So Bruno's actually great. He's a good player in Brazil. He didn't have like a great season the past couple of years. He has been a big shock to me that he got picked because three other players from Brazil were in the draft, but he was picked first. I think there was a little bit of emotional part from Masai Ujiri when he picked him because I think he got angry. He didn't get that awareness, but this. In Brazil, they call him the Brazilian Kevin Durant. He does have the same body type, tall, lanky, he can dribble, he can shoot. He's good at most of the things. He's not really a specialist in anything, which I'm not sure how he's going to fit in the Raptors. His position where he's playing right now is already filled by a lot of other guys like DeMar DeRozan and Amir Johnson, depending on where he's going to put him. But overall, I think he will be adjusting, but he will be adjusting probably in a couple of years. So it's not like the draft commentator, he said he's 2 years away from being 2 years away. So it's he'll be good, but it will take time because he's still 18.
Phil, so I don't know if everyone realizes this, but last year Masai Ujiri tried very, very hard to get the Greek Freak in the draft, and that just didn't pan out for them. I mean, what are your thoughts on this guy? Is he comparable to that type of raw athletic talent?
Well, I think I've only had a small sample size, right, in terms of what videos and coverage he's had. But when I look at him, I see the similarities. Like I see the idea of Durant. Although I see him more as a potential defensive specialist, more an offensive specialist, like you say with Kevin Durant. I think if he can pick up a bit of a corner three, and with a 7'6" wingspan, which is ginormous for 6'9", and I feel he has a bit bigger frame than Durant, a bit wider shoulders. I think he can put on some muscle. And while I agree with Mota that there are a lot of athletes on Toronto, I disagree with the 1 point. I think where they really got hurt in the playoffs last year was that against strong threes, strong wings, where I think Amir Johnson's a little slow to cover those guys like the LeBron James, the Carmelo Anthony's of the world. Obviously, no one can stop them, but you need someone to put in front of them. And DeMar DeRozan and Terrence Ross were overmatched. They're not big enough guys. So I think if this guy can come in, put on a few pounds with his wingspan and foot speed, defend those guys kind of like a Tayshaun Prince role, and add a bit of a corner three, I think that's all they really need, to be honest. He doesn't have to be a superstar.
No, I don't think they expect him to be a superstar, but I think even defensively, his stats haven't been that really good. I still have to see how quick he got right now. In terms of putting him as an extra body for defense, I don't. It's like putting Kevin Durant against LeBron James, or putting he will be okay, but he'll always be mismatched just because of his size, just because of his body weight. And I think he's the type of guy that he didn't gain any weight since he was 16, and he grew up in height, but he didn't grow in size, so in weight. So I'm thinking he has that body type that will always stay tall and skinny, just like Kevin Durant and Phil Boileau.
Yeah, well, that's pretty funny you mention it, because I was actually gonna mention myself as the complete reason why you're wrong. I was actually that exact person who grew up until about 6'3", 6'4", stayed ridiculously thin. Like, I'm a thin guy, but once I hit my low 20s, then I was able to put on 10, 20, 30 pounds. And really, if he can just do that, I think that's enough. I mean, I don't see him as that small a guy. Like, even physically, just watching tape of him, I think he's bigger than Durant right now. And so if he just can put on another 20, I think he's young, and he needs to go to a coach that understands defense, Coach Casey, and he needs to not have the pressure of being a main offensive threat, and he won't there in Toronto. I think it's kind of an ideal fit. He'll learn under some smart guys like Fields and a bunch of those holdovers from the Sacramento trade. I think this is a good position for him, and while he may never be as strong as LeBron James, I mean, let's be honest, some Mr. Olympians will never be as strong as LeBron James. Yep. So it's going to be one of those things where if he can match up with 27 out of 30 of the small forwards in the league, he's a keeper to me.
Well, this is very much going to be a wait and see. Let's just quickly give our grades on how Ujiri did with the selection. Myself, I'm going to give him an incomplete. Mota, because there's just so many question marks we have to wait out for. Mota, what do you think?
I will give him a 4 out of 10, just because it was, I think, for a lot of reasons, it can be a good reason for him to take him and not for him to build on the future. But right now, I think looking at the draft of this year and the pool of choices that he could have got instead of Bruno, I think he would have made a better choice. I'm a big fan of having a Brazilian player in the NBA, and I think that he'll be. It's really good for the country, but I don't think. I don't want him to get in and just to be sent to the D League or to be sent to Europe in the next year. If some Brazilian kid will come into the league, I want him to have an impact, just like Thiago Splitter or Leandro Barbosa or even Varejao. So I don't think I'm the type of guy who believes that we don't need an extra one just to have an extra one. I think we need an extra one that can inspire the generations in Brazil. And right now, I don't see Bruno doing that.
Phil, where do you rate him?
I'm going to give this guy 6.5 because I think at that position, and considering you're in Toronto, the two factors are in Toronto, it's one of those cities, unfortunately, it's growing, but it's one of those cities that's going to have trouble getting big-name free agents to your city. So when you have trouble doing that, you have to take risks to draft these stars. And when it comes to the 20th overall pick, while there were some good players after, I agree. In terms of that pick, once you get out of the lottery, I think that's where you start taking those chances because let's be honest, Kyle Lowry is 50-50 if he's going to come back next year. So there's no guarantee that Toronto is going to be in a good place next year. They may still be developing young players. So I think it's a sort of thing where I think he's going to be a lot better than most people give him credit for. I just have a gut feeling about this guy. And I think that he's going to be one of those guys that really fits their system, their need, and he's going to be a very coachable guy. I think Coach Casey's going to be a great influence on him, and I think you have to take these chances. And he took a chance, and this is why they're paying him the money. This is why he was GM of the year. He takes chances, and you have to, because if he would pull a pick kind of like OKC did, where they really just picked an average guy with a low ceiling, Yes, he could fit, but they're a playoff team who's contending right away. Toronto needs more star power in there, and that's why you have to swing for the fences, and so that's why I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt with the 0.5 over 6.5 from Masai Ujiri.
Okay, so we're just going to have to wrap up here, and let's hope that when he gets up to Toronto that they feed him with a bunch of Canadian beef, because that's one thing this kid needs.
Well, so,
so thanks, guys, for being on the show. We'll see you soon in the lounge.
Later.
See ya.